Bring it around again, folks. It's podcast time with the Andy B Show. So glad to have you here. We got people in the chat. I can't believe it. Look, it's been a week. Maybe you've been working too hard. Maybe I've been working too hard. Maybe it's time to talk a little bit about some video games. Played some this week. Maybe you have too. Look, we got a lot to talk about. Packed show as always. The marathon reviews are rolling in. It's pretty good. A lot of good reviews out there. We'll talk about the sales numbers, the reception. Look, it's really just going to be a marathon minute. I don't want you to worry too much about it. This isn't the marathon show. I've got some other things to talk about today. And a lot of it's around pricing, because the price is maybe wrong and maybe right, depending on what kind of company you're talking about. Epic Games is laying people off. I beat one game of Fortnite. I got one victory royale, and then they just lay off 1,000 people. I can't be held responsible for that. Sony's raising the PlayStation 5 price a lot, but Nintendo is dropping prices. OpenAI shutting down their video slop app, Sora. Like, maybe nature is healing, but also it's still painful. So there's a lot of change. We need to break it down. There was an Xbox partner preview. We're going to talk about that. Some new gameplay for one of these Mass Effect look-alike themed groups of games. There's a bunch of them out there. This one's called The Expanse, Osiris Reborn. There's more roguelites to talk about. There's more gameplay on Replaced. Tomodachi Life had a demo. Look, the run of show for the show today, I'm going to have to cut content. I almost don't want to give you an intro to the show. I should just start, because the fact is it's going to be too long of a show. And there's only so much show I think everybody needs. But let's start with the headlines. Epic laid off 1,000 people. Yeah. We mentioned last week that the price of V-Bucks was going up. Maybe it was last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. And it's like, look, they only raise the prices when the user base has rollen off, right? Everything is a little bit subsidized to get users. You want to get a maximum user burst. And then when that's going down, they're going to raise prices. It's true if it's Netflix. It's true if it's any one of these like service-based systems. And sure enough, Epic said, yeah, technically, yeah, we're going to lay people off. And like maybe a lot of people, maybe 1,000. This was the note that they sent last week to Epic employees. I'll read a bit of it. Today, we're laying off over 1,000 Epic employees. I'm sorry we're here again. The downturn in Fortnite engagement that started in 2025, see, there's the peak of users and it's gone down, means we're spending significantly more than we're making. We have to make major cuts to keep the company funded. This layoff, together with over $500 million of identified cost savings in our contracting, marketing, and closing some open roles, puts us in a more stable space. Interestingly, down below, they say, since it's a thing now, we should note that the layoffs aren't related to AI. I'm not sure there are any AI layoffs. Like, unless your job literally got replaced, I think it's mostly these, it's other business factors. Most companies are still trying to figure out how to integrate AI in a way that works. And actually, the cost of the AI is like, the AI cost is also on its own cost curve. More people are still adopting it. It's subsidized. So it's cheap to get in and then integrate it into the business. And then it's going to slow down and then the cost is going to go up. So actually, like the AI cost offsets haven't even happened yet. And Epic, who is very technology forward, like it is one of the most like highfalutin, like we are pushing huge changes to a live service game all the time. Companies in the world, it's one of the biggest. They have the biggest online service game that isn't maybe World of Warcraft, and it changes constantly. And they have to have huge technology and marketing, all this other stuff built into it. They are a monster of productivity over there. But it requires a user base to sustain it. And they're going like, look, it's not that. That's not why. So, I mean, I'm glad they said that on their way out. CEO Tim Sweeney said they're spending significantly more than they're making. It's the second round of layoffs. 830 jobs were cut back in 2023. and they have roughly 4,000 employees, about where they were pre-pandemic. Now, if you're following like all of tech industry hiring, it spiked during the pandemic and it's been slowly whittling back down in little rounds of layoffs as they find like the next thing they can cut without destroying the company. They make the cuts. It just so happens that maybe nature is healing. Maybe Fortnite will not be the game that constantly takes over all of the gameplay time. Most of my gameplay time, if I've spent any time gaming this week, it's been in Marathon. But I have a pretty healthy, like I don't, it's not that my gameplay patterns are going to save the industry or hurt it, but if enough people had the same gameplay pattern of only playing one live service game, Fortnite, Marathon, no, it's not going to be Marathon. Marathon's selling, but not as well as Fortnite. But Fortnite, Minecraft is another big one, right? World of Warcraft, and Roblox are these like the big three. And if people are only playing those games, and there's some research out there that shows that there's a number of folks that are only playing those games. And if that's true, they're not buying other games. And if they're not buying other games, it's harder for people to make games, chicken and egg problem. So if Fortnite crashes and burns, but the rest of the game industry doesn't, that'll be painful for the 4,000 employees that are left over there. But it might be good overall for the rest of the games industry. And as somebody that's been playing video games for a long time and talking about them for nearly a year as an independent podcaster, I think it's important to have a healthy games industry. And one way that you can tell it's healthy is that when prices go up on consoles, wait, is that how you can tell? Sony is increasing PS5 prices again. Xbox has done it recently. Sony's doing it, and they're doing it in a way that is, there's so much going on in the world that it's almost hard to say that it's like Trump's fault with the tariffs anymore. It's like, well, it might be an AI data center. Ice Cream Mikey shared these photos. I think these are right. These look right. They've got this global price increase for PS5 from $549 for the disc edition to $649. The digital edition, which if you remember at PS5 launch was $399. It had been increased to $499, and now it's going to $599. Wow. PS5 Pro, which I bought at $699 when it came out, is now going to be $899. $900. And people got mad at me when I said the Steam machine is going to be $1,000 whenever it launches. I'm not so sure it's going to be under $1,000. It might be $1,200. The next Xbox, so what's happening? These are prices for, they say global price increase in this image, and the Xbox is not immune. Like the Xbox recently just upped their prices too. If you want the Xbox Series X, which is kind of the one to buy, then it's $649. And they don't even have like a Pro version. And if they did, you could guess that it would probably be priced similarly at like $849 because they have this Xbox Series S limited edition, which has like a 2 terabyte drive, which I think there's a 2 terabyte in the PS5 Pro, but it's $799 now. And so you could, like even without, having like a Pro version of the Xbox, an up-res whatever version, they're tipping on $800 for their like 2 terabyte storage version. So the big drivers in this, as far as I can tell, are, yeah, sure, tariffs kind of, but these are global price increases. It's not just like the US is, causing its own problem, though it's not nothing. And it's AI data centers buying up all of the RAM and storage. And there was, I can't remember the name of the GPU manufacturer, but there was some NVIDIA affiliated GPU manufacturer that was like, yeah, we're getting out. Like, we're not going to make these graphics cards anymore. And the reason why was that several like data center, like build out companies that are working with these, Anthropic and OpenAI and everybody else. They're like, yeah, you've bought up all of our manufacturing capacity for like the next 5 years. Why would we bother with like selling individual GPUs, to Jimmy, the customer? We don't care. We can't make these any faster, and we're going to take the guaranteed money. Now you go, well, is that, they've really lost their old customer. They don't care about them anymore. It's like, obviously that's true. They obviously don't give a rip which is sad. I would like to think that a big company like that would go, yeah, the money's out there, but we're going to keep 5% around to just make these graphics card because we want little Jimmy and Janie to have a nice Christmas and be able to see their video games with ray tracing. But no, they don't care. So when you've got huge billions and billions, nearly trillions of dollars going into data center build outs for AI, it's eating the face off of every RAM and storage purchase that you can get. So AI RAM apocalypse continues, and it's having a dramatic impact. There's this little tiny console out there. I forget what it's called. It's like the Play something. It projects. It's like a little projector. It's very cute. I'll have to find it. It's like $199, and I guess it was like the best selling console last year somehow because it's super cheap. People see it and buy it. Maybe they're buying it on TikTok. I don't know where they're buying it. But it projects an image onto the wall and then it reads you and your kids like physical movements. And it reminds me of the old Xbox Kinect. The Xbox Kinect, actually, I liked it. Kinect Sports was great. And it would it would use infrared, cast an infrared onto you that you couldn't see, just blasted with infrared waves. And then it would put that into the screen and make your motion like map over to the motion of the game. So you could play the game on the wall with this little tiny, like, I'm gonna have to find it. I think it's called like Connect. I'm just gonna search for the word Connect like console and see if it pops up. Yeah, yep, there it is. Found it. It is the Next Playground. And 4 months ago, they said, look, I know how to search. I can do this live. Xbox outsold Connect style Next Playground console during the Black Friday week in the US. Great. So that was the news. The news was the Xbox outsold this thing because it wasn't doing it before. So the Next Playground, they also just went up from $199 to $249 for this little tiny box that just, plays pretty straightforward, simple games that are probably fun for parties and kids. It's all going up. It normally goes the other way, right? The consoles get like a better chip version. They get maybe even more storage. We're just talking about market saturation. Not to get all salesy on you, but your total addressable market, right, for people who are going to buy your games, as the most of your group fills out, you sell PlayStation consoles to the most of the people that are in your addressable market, it slows down because less people are going to buy. So the way you get them to buy is you drop price and you go, well, there's an actuary that runs the numbers. If we drop the PlayStation price by $100, this many more people are likely to buy it. And then that many more people are likely to buy games and services and controllers and accessories and all that other stuff. And so it's worth it. And so or we found some type of new way to make the manufacturing process more efficient. And as a result, more people can buy it. We could sell it for cheaper or both. That is not happening here. It is the other way around. And it's the first time in console history since the 80s. So we're talking about my entire lifespan. The console prices have never gone up on a console that was basically the same. So it is, yeah, sure, it's inflation, but maybe it's the war. That's too new. I don't think that's had the ripple effect. The Iran war hasn't had the ripple effect on anything but gas prices, probably. And what is causing it? I think it's AI. It's got to be these AI data centers just buying up all the storage. Yeah. So I think those prices are effective April 2nd. So when you hear this show, if you're not listening to it live, you're listening to it when this show launches on Monday, March 30th, and you were going to buy a PlayStation, maybe you get out there and buy one. Save yourself the hassle. Some people say, you just buy a PC. Again, if you're somebody that was already going to buy a PC, I was looking at them. I was looking at them at Costco over the holidays this last year. And, the ones that would run really well and last a long time were, $1,500 to $2,000. Totally different price point. So, the price matters. It changes things. It changes things so much that it could change not just our behavior, but maybe the behavior of one of the big companies. Finally, for over a decade, people have asked that if you're going to make physical games and digital games, they shouldn't be the same price. The digital games can't be resold. It's hard in most cases to share them. And when they started, you couldn't share them at all. It would be tied to your account. So if your account ever got banned or lost or something happened, then the account goes away and so do all the games. Why does it cost the same for digital games when the physical version is more costly to produce, to ship? You got inventory sitting on shelves. Why are we doing this? Well, Nintendo is about to change it. Nintendo announced Nintendo Switch 2 game pricing, starting with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book in May. You're going to have a different MSRP because Nintendo doesn't control the price of their games, blah, blah, blah. Announcing the cost of goods and then letting the retailers choose how they're going to sell it, and then walking away from that retailer if they don't follow your MSRP is like this weird little loophole scam with the Supreme Court, by the way. No, that's our announced price. They can set, Target can sell Nintendo games for whatever they want. It's fine, but they don't. Because if they sell it for whatever price they actually want, Nintendo won't resell them more games. It's been going on for a long time. So the MSRP, you call it whatever you want. It's the price for anything that is a brand where stores want to keep selling it. If Target wants to buy Nintendo games, I mean, don't come after me. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just telling you, I've seen it for a long time. Have worked for companies that sold retail goods where they would go, that's our announced price. The retailers can sell it for whatever they like. But if they don't, if they sell it for a different price, we're not going to restock them. They won't be our retailer for long. So that's it. It's like this threat that they'll just cut the product. I digress. $69.99 is the cost for a physical copy of Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which is just the price of a premium Nintendo video game. $59.99 is going to be the digital price. So they're going to charge you $10 less if you buy the digital. Now, for me, I got kids that could lose these tiny cartridges. I'm buying them digitally anyway because I don't want to swap between them. If I've ever had to get the dad, where is the Sonic in the Olympics cartridge? And I'm like, I don't know. Did you check the game basket? Did you check through all the things? Is it in the case, the travel case? Did you check the Switch? Did you look inside the actual Switch and see if it's in there already? No, thank you. I don't need it. I'm buying digital anyway. So for me, it's just a discount with no problems. And I think it's a good sign if they are going to charge digital prices lower. And that's what we've seen on PC gaming for the longest time. That PC games start at a lower price or they end up at a lower price much faster. Nintendo games are doing their own thing. Nintendo is very much, I know what I've got. Don't lowball me. We're going to charge you an arm and a leg for Mario because it's worth it, and I'm not going to hear anything else. That's just how they are. But it is the first retailer or the first publisher between Sony, Nintendo, and Xbox to blink and say they should be different. Of course they should be different. But they're the first one to admit it. That's neat. It's the only good sign, I think, out of the whole pricing debacle that we've seen. Except for this. OpenAI is shutting down Sora, which was their standalone app, like a social network where people would go and prompt these AI videos, what I'm going to call AI slop. Hey, the AI stuff is fine for the videos and pictures are fine for memes. But there's a lot of people that are like, oh, we're all movie makers now. And it's no, you're not. You just made your line of garbage and put it out, called yourself a filmmaker because you prompted something. And I think as prep, we'll talk about it later in the show. There's a big AAA game coming out soon that got more hassle because they used generative AI somewhere early in their process. If you did it with a model that didn't steal from people, then it's fine. What's the problem? You're trying out stuff faster. You see things, but nobody wants it in the end product. I don't. But Sora, just led a lot of people to believe that they could just do whatever they wanted, make any video they want. And outside of just goofs and memes, it's all trash. I don't like looking at it. So it was bizarre when Disney was like, you know what, OpenAI, Sam Altman, we like you so much. You know what we're going to do? We're going to give you $1 billion. And we're going to let you use Disney characters in your Sora AI app. What do you think about that? Nothing bad could happen there. there's going to be safeguards and prompts. So nothing bad will ever happen to Minnie Mouse. No stormtrooper is ever going to do anything weird to a Disney princess. Well, guess what? That deal's dead too. Because OpenAI went, whoops, we forgot. We were not supposed to build stupid chat apps that just change the faces of people into Studio Ghibli characters or make this AI slop video stuff. The only way people are actually going to pay for this is if it's business productivity. And they are pivoting back into it. And they're dropping Sora and they're dropping the Disney deal. And maybe that means they need less compute for video AI slop garbage. And maybe the downstream of that, because they've also canceled some of these data center build outs they're going to be doing, they had planned to do. There's some new story. This isn't like an AI podcast. It just so happens that AI is like in the news and it's affecting the prices of these video game consoles. But they've cut out a bunch of the plans that they've done to build data centers. And I'm like, well, maybe that'll ease up the price pipeline on these consoles with memory and storage. I don't know. Yeah. Question here from the live chat. Isu says, did they lower the digital price or did they increase the physical copy price? Back to the Nintendo pricing games. So it's an interesting question because Nintendo has put out games at different price points. Historically, their first-party stuff is always a premium price point. So last generation with the Switch, if you bought Mario, whatever the Mario game was, Mario Odyssey, great game. It was whatever the ceiling was for price, $59.99 at the time. So we're in this new world of game prices being $69.99 for quote unquote full priced games. But even Nintendo puts out price points, there's some of their games at slightly different price points. So, but you're seeing that with all of their other games. They're basically they did put one out at $79 and people lost their minds. It was Mario Kart World, launch game with the Switch. And when Mario Kart World came out, we're like, oh, are we going to be paying $80 for Mario games now? We know they're worth it. They got a lot of replayability, but come on, what are we doing? So yeah, the $69.99 being like the regular price for a premium Nintendo title is the norm. And I'm trying to think like what was the last Mario game? I have to look at like the Switch 2 games to date. Let me see if I could find the list. Yeah, here you go, like Donkey Kong Bonanza. Like Donkey Kong Bonanza, if I recall, was priced out at $69.99. Sure enough, there it is. So that's the normal price for Nintendo games. And what they haven't done yet, they said starting with the new Yoshi game, they're gonna bring the digital prices at a different price point. They didn't say it's always going to be a $10 difference. They didn't say that they're always going to be, structured in the same way. They just said you're going to see them different. And are they going to go back and do all the rest? Are they going to go back and reprice a bunch of the other games? The implication, I think, is that they will. But they are a very data-driven kind of company. So I bet they're going to see how this goes with Yoshi and go like, well, what do people do knowing what they know? Are they going to change their buying behavior? So they just said that's where they're going to start and we'll see what happens. So it is a difference, but it is I think most people would consider it a discount over the physical price. Yeah. Speaking of the Switch 2 and speaking of digital games, the cool part about having digital games on the Switch 2, especially with kids around, is that split screen co-op is like alive and well on the Switch. We were playing some Fast Fusion the other day, and it's fast. It's like, I think it does like 120 frames per second fast. So like it renders fast and the races are fast. We were playing that. We also recently played the Nintendo Switch Sports, which they've like made a Switch 2 update to, I'm pretty sure, where it runs a little bit better. It's got online. You can unlock a bunch of costumes and stuff. So there's like tennis. There's some type of sword fighting called like Chambara. I don't know. It makes me think of fancy toast with cheese and Sounds Italian, ciabatta. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, like if you liked Wii Sports, it's great. Like it's like that, you know? And we, you don't get to unlock the extra costumes and stuff. Like my kid was wearing like cat ears in her character. And I was like, yeah, I want that cool leather jacket or whatever. You don't get that unless you play online. So you have to go online and like get rough with people, you know? Like there's probably like some other dad and his young daughter playing online. And I was like, let's go. Like you have to get pretty mean because I've got to unlock that loot. I got gear to unlock. Don't slow me down. I haven't played this yet, but my kid, one last bout of Switch news. I haven't played this yet, but my kiddos did. The Tomodachi Life Living the Dream Nintendo Switch 2 demo came out this week. And it's a weird game. So how do I explain this game? Everybody remembers the Miis from the Nintendo. You make your own Miis. I don't know if you'll be able to share the Miis. I think I heard that you can't share them. But you're going to make your own Miis of any type, and they give you a lot of different options to do it. And then like Animal Crossing, you get an island, and you get to build up your island, and you put your little Miis on there. But unlike Animal Crossing, you don't actually control anybody on the island. Like you don't have your character and someone else's character. You only bring in the characters that you create. So you can create however you'd like. They give you a lot of options to kind of turn them into these cute little Miis. But then you are like this creator, protector, instigator person. And the Miis just react to you. So they're more like Sims than Miis. Or than Animal Crossing characters are, because you don't run around the island and do anything. You run around and go like, what are you doing? What are you doing? How's your day going? You know, and then they talk to you. So they have their own little needs, kind of like Sims. They want different things. They're thinking about stuff. Maybe they get lonely. They need a little friend. And you just like pick them up by the scruff of their neck, like you're like moving kittens around, and drop them off where they need to go. Like, oh, you're hungry? Let me pick you up and put you over here. And let me give you stuff and put these people together. And then they react and they have voices. I'm not going to play them here on the show, but like they talk in this like cute little voice that you can tweak up and down. They have like 4 or 5 different sliders for like how fast, what pitch, what the tone is. And my kids were putting those sliders up and down on one of the voices for like an hour. So I heard like every if there's thousands of points along the bar line and thousands of different combinations of voices you might get as you drag those little bars around and change the voice. I heard all of them. Yeah, millions and millions of voice opportunities, and they'll talk to each other. You can make them. I've seen some weird clips, man. Not for my kids, but some weird clips from other people of making these little Miis just say things like they don't know what they're saying, but they've got some text to speech model in here, and they'll just say whatever you want. I've seen some crazy stuff. I think it's going to be a fun game to play, maybe like on a live stream. I mean, the kids are going to have fun with it. They're already having fun with the demo, but I think it'll be fun to play on a live stream and like get some input from people in a chat. I think we're going to see a lot of people doing that. I bet we'll see a lot of TikTok, short form clips of this game. Yeah, it's just a real crazy. It could be cute or as dark as you want, and that was how it was with The Sims. You would end up having like everything's really cute, but sometimes we're going to put these Sims in a pool and we're taking the ladder out. Anyway, that game comes out on April 16th, but the demo's out there. You can create 3 me characters. Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you're listening to this show, just so you know, you can go to a website. I created one for you. It's called andyb.show. And if you go to andyb.show, that'll take you to my Patreon page. And on the Patreon page, you will find exclusive clips of this show. You'll find the game chat series. I need to get another game chat out there soon. You'll see all kinds of fun things over there at andyb.show. And you'll also get the video version of the podcast, the audio version of the podcast. That's all there for you. A bunch of my posts that are there from the newsletter that I don't write anymore. Sometimes I do the Gaming 411. But also you'll get the warm knowledge. The cockles of your heart will be warmed by knowing that you can subscribe as a friend of the show and support this show. So really thankful to all 37 members of the Patreon over there. Thank you. And to my wonderful 4 friend of the show patrons. So when you're out there and you support the show and subscribe, it helps me do things like pay for video games, pay for some of these subscription services that I need to use to keep the show running. Question comes in, is there any merch available? Let me know what merch you might like. I would love to create some merch. I'm a big fan of stickers. I like to slap those all over my laptop and stuff like that. I could see koozies, get a Andy B koozie to drink my energy drink with. Maybe my Ember mug that's made, been in this show entirely. Maybe I can get like a branded version of this. That's probably pretty expensive. But yeah, let me know what you'd like. If you're out there and you're thinking about merch, I'd love to make some, but I got to find the right thing, the lowest price point possible, to make it interesting and try and see if people would like it. But I'm down. Yeah, I'm down to do some merch. But in the meantime, for those of you that just haven't been over there, andyb.show is where you can go join. And you can join for free, by the way. Like most of the stuff that's over there is free. And it's just a way to say like, hey, when the YouTube algorithm, when the Threads algorithm decides that we don't need to see each other anymore, the Patreon algorithm goes, yes, you do. And you don't have to get disconnected. You'll get to hear from me. So definitely check out andyb.show. If you can believe it, there's more show. We got a lot to talk about. So we're going to kind of speed through the Xbox partner preview. I don't think you have to go watch the whole thing. Normally I get to say, I watched this, so you don't have to. I didn't even watch it because the week was too crazy. But they did announce a bunch of stuff, a lot. And most of the stuff they announced is coming over to their Game Pass subscription service. Which I think is maybe more interesting than everything they just announced, but it was a partner preview. So coming to Game Pass, most of this stuff they have not announced that was coming to Game Pass before yesterday or earlier this week, but now it is. So there's some standouts here. A couple of the ones I've never heard of before are like Vaunted, Forever Ago, Ascend to Zero, Grave Seasons. Have never heard of these. Smaller games, some of them are indie games, some of them are just, games that aren't on my radar. But if you're a Game Pass subscriber, there's a bunch of games that are kind of a big deal that are going to be coming. Wuthering Waves. I don't play it, but some people do, and that's a big game. Hades 2 is coming to Game Pass. Hades 2 got, it was early access on the PC, and then when they launched in launch version, they put it on the PC, of course, and then Switch 2. And it's been exclusive on the Switch 2 for 6 months, 8 months. So Hades 2 is going to be coming to PlayStation 5 as well, but it's going to be on Game Pass. So that's a big deal. They didn't say whether it's Game Pass Premium or Game Pass Ultimate. I assume Ultimate, but I don't know. And then The Expanse, Osiris Reborn. We're going to talk about The Expanse because for me, since I've already played Hades 2, I still have some runs I need to do in it, but I've already played it. That's the one that's probably the most interesting to me because as a fan of Mass Effect, The Expanse looks kind of like Mass Effect. So this one's made by Owlcat Games. They've been talking about it a lot, but they haven't shown like a lot of gameplay video in a while. And it's definitely it's violent. The Expanse show was a series of books, and then they made an Amazon show that ran for 6 seasons. I haven't watched any of it. It's on my list. I did buy the Expanse Telltale game, which is like the adventure game where people will remember what you do. But this version is definitely like kind of photorealistic looking, like it looks like a Mass Effect style game if Mass Effect was even more modern, photorealistic, and a lot of like tech instead of the space magic. I don't think there's any space magic in The Expanse, but I'm coming at it kind of from the outside, right? Like, to be honest, like I'm interested, but I'm not like a hardcore Expanse fan. I think I'm somebody who might be. I know that there's space miners. I know that they're out there hunting derelict ships and trying to scavenge from them. But it looks like this is the kind of thing where you get your own ship and you get your own crew, and you're going to build relationships and go on missions, and then the action is very actiony. Um, I've been like pretty interested in seeing this one, seeing more of it. I mean, look, there's a bunch of chest high walls in this game that you can crouch behind and then shoot over the top. What else do you want? You know, it looks pretty good. So the Expanse is coming, and it's coming to Game Pass, which is a pretty big get, but it's coming everywhere. This is just one of those that, Microsoft gave them a money hat, gave them a deal to put it on Game Pass, and who can blame them? It looks pretty good. I don't think there's any I'm controlling the spaceship like in Starfield. I think it's probably more like Mass Effect, like you're going to select where you'd like to go on the digital map that's in there. Yeah. So spring 2027 to Xbox Series X and S, PS5, and Steam. Yeah. So it's like a ways away, but it looks pretty good. We've got a little look at one of these other games from there a little bit later in the show. Oh, no, it's right now. I'm looking at my agenda. It's right now. I hope that's okay. The other one that caught my eye, mostly because it's been a while since I've seen this kind of game. This is Serious Sam, the Shatterverse. Do you remember the Serious Sam games? Serious Sam was one of these run and gun. It was around the time of like Unreal Tournament when that was really big on PC. It's like the turn of the century, it's been a while, but it was very arcadey. There was no like aim and then shoot. It was just shoot, just hold the mouse button down and shoot. And this one looks like they've got some type of like, hey, there's multiple Serious Sams from around the universe. It's a multiverse situation. Kind of doesn't matter. The Serious Sam games were about getting everybody. Actually, it started with just you. I guess there was multiplayer, maybe in the second one. Just thousands of enemies. It's probably hundreds at the time running at you, and you get bigger and bigger guns. But like Duke Nukem at the time, there was very much a like quip based, not combat, just attitude, like I'm going to kill these alien bastards for shooting up my ride, kind of like energy. And I don't see him in the trailer, but my favorite enemy from the Serious Sam games were these guys, big guys wearing jeans, no shirt, big muscle dudes, no head, and then just bombs. They were just carrying bombs in their arms, but somehow yelling at you. Like, I don't understand how they got the yelling without the head. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Maybe they had a bomb for a head. Look, it's been a while, but Serious Sam Shatterverse looks like this. I guess it's a roguelite, like co-op shooter. Looks okay. I think so. Yeah. There's more games. I don't know if we're in the news. I don't know if we're in, I don't even know what segment of the show we're in anymore. I just know that we have a list of games as long as my arm, and I got a couple of things to say about them. About a month from now, we're going to see a video game called Saros hit the PlayStation 5. I mentioned last week they had, introduced a little trailer that said like, hey, we're going to be doing this 3D positional audio, so wear headphones. Hey, we're going to be using the PlayStation DualSense controller. So, get excited about that because, the half trigger pulls are back. Well, they took a bunch of people, flew them out to Helsinki, I think where the studio's at, and let a bunch of different journalists play the video game for 3 hours. They invited me, but I said, look, they didn't invite me, but maybe someday they will. Who knows? Look, the point is I didn't go. So I get to watch what they got to see. And it looks good. They showed off like the first two maps that are out there. A bunch of news came out about it. In the first game, you didn't have permanent upgrades. Returnal. I'm more calling Returnal the first game because this one is like very similar in the way that it's going to play. But they have permanent upgrades as the roguelite. The guns, I think, will also level up. That was the biggest like permanent progression in Returnal was your guns would like unlock permanent upgrades, but you didn't. You were always just as weak the next time you came through, but the gear that you might find got better. So there was a sense of progression, but it was hard, like tough as nails. And they're trying to make this game, I think, a little more accessible. I think they want people to, it's still going to be hard, but they want people to have more options to tone it down. And if they put in the effort to make it easier over time. A lot of other details came out in a PlayStation blog about how the shielding is going to work. So before in Returnal, if you had a shield, it just took a hit and that was it. And that's a lot, like, because you don't only get hit at all. It's like this, they call it a bullet ballet, but it's a bullet hell. They wanted you to dodge the bullets in the first game. Don't get hit. It's going to be painful. You're going to lose your adrenaline, which changed like how many, if you didn't get hit for a long enough period of time in the first game, your adrenaline would go up and different benefits and abilities would pop up. Like at the highest levels of adrenaline, like you could see enemies through walls. No small benefit, right? That's a big deal. And then you could have additional things that would get better. Like if you had certain upgrades, certain parasites that you would attach to your body, they would affect how well your adrenaline worked and what happened when you were at full adrenaline. So really not getting hit was one of the most important things that you could do in that game. So dodging, jumping and dodging, dashing back and forth, and just making sure that all of the bullets that were coming at you didn't affect you was a huge deal in Returnal. So where Saros is going to really change it up is they're giving you a shield. It's like this bubble shield that, runs for a certain amount of time. You have a certain amount of energy. I'm sure you can change it over time with upgrades. But they're going to give you this bubble shield, and the bubble shield is both defense that you can pull out at any time that you have energy to do so, and offense. Because as your bubble shield gets hit by certain colors of bullets that come at you, there'll be some that still hurt you anyway, or that don't help charge up the second ability, which is like some type of a power blast. So now there's this shield mechanic. How much shield do I have? Can I use it? And can I use it to absorb energy from the enemies? And have I absorbed enough to blast out? Not with my gun, but with like this innate like arm ability or whatever you pick up. So that's neat because that turns dodging into being aggressive. Like if I can use the shield to be more aggressive and instead of dodging out of the way, I can go forward and through and into the big stream of bullets, use that as power and then blast out. I'm like, okay, that is going to change how the game plays. And of course, the developers know that. They're very excited to tell you about how it's going to change. So that's a big deal is you're going to be not just evasive, but also evasive and at times offensive through your defense. And that's what we've all known is the best defense is a good offense. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I'm pretty excited about this one. Comes out next April. By next April, I mean next month. There's a bunch of gameplay videos out there of it. If you were watching the live version or the video version of the show, I was showing some from the IGN, just had like 15 minutes of video where I don't think they talked very much. You could just play the game, watch them play it. It's pretty good. But somebody out there is like, here's 3 hours of video. I'm not going to watch all that. I'd just rather play the game or go play the Cryo Archive. Over there on Marathon. But look, I want you to know that I did spend 9 minutes of my time watching 9 minutes of the 15 minutes of Replaced. Replaced put out some exclusive narrative gameplay. This is like the 2.5D kind of futuristic game that you're an AI put into a human-looking body, and you're trying to find, I don't know, your creator. You'd think after watching 15 minutes of narrative gameplay, you would know. I do not know. I watched 9 minutes and I had to stop. So I watched 9 minutes to tell you don't have to. The things that were great about the Replaced gameplay, it looks like you probably had it's very early on in the game. You probably had some type of an action introduction, and then this is like the story setting 15 minutes before you get over to more action. But for those 15 minutes, there wasn't much going on. Things I did like, though. You got to see a lot of the lighting from the setting sun, kind of like, just beautifully like taking this pixel art world and lighting it up. You feel like they got these dirty streets, all these details. it still looks good, but it was a lot of like meeting characters around town and picking up a couple of quests, and it was not a good. Don't go watch it. Just if you're interested in Replaced, don't watch the 15-minute narrative of Replaced. The audio was really good though. They did a really good job of like creating not just the soundscape with all the, like, what's the name of those people that do all the sounds for the movies? Like when people take steps and there's somebody in a sound studio like smushing a boot into a bucket of lettuce or whatever to make it sound like they're clopping around some alien world. Like they have a lot of really good, is it Foley work? They got some good Foley work in this game. Like the sound quality is top notch, except for one thing. It's not a voiced game. I didn't realize that. It's a text-based like character and interactions. And as a result, they have this little like sound when the text comes out. And I hope they can like let you change what that sound is like, because the one they picked is pretty grating. Not good to listen to at all. So it took me from like, hey, I'm pretty excited about Replaced to like, if this was my first introduction to it, I would not be watching this game. So be careful. If you're interested in Replaced, you might watch that 15 minutes and go, I don't think this is for me. Okay. I got one more game to talk about that was neat that I saw. This one's called Punk Runner. We've seen a few games kind of take just a little bit of Blade Runner's like little slice of visual identity, or the Fifth Element where they're flying cars around. This one's probably more Fifth Element than Blade Runner. But if you remember in the Fifth Element, they were in these big vertical cities and they would drive flying cars around. And Corbin Dallas was like a taxi cab driver, and he would like fly or drive his car around. And it looks kind of like that. You're racing mostly in a 2D plane across this vertical, like up down world, but then you'll change the plane of the racetrack and start going down through the city and then back up. Apparently it's all made by one developer. It's like an indie developer just making this game, and it looks pretty neat. So I think there's a demo out there on Steam. I just wanted to call it out. Like when I see cool video games like come across the old video game desk here, I just like to let you know. So Punk Runner is out there on Steam, at least with a I think there's a demo. Planned release date 2027. You can add to your wish list. No demo. So anyway, you might want to wish list it if you're on Steam. Speaking of things that you can wish list, I mentioned earlier, we talked a little bit about the Expanse video game coming out, but I swear I'm going to have to keep like a sticky note on my desk to keep these two upcoming third-person like action RPG games that look like Mass Effect and start with the letter E apart from each other. So I created a rubric for everyone that would like to see it. The Expanse is a game where you play miners in space who are very mad. And Exodus is a game where you could punch a space bear. So I think Exodus is a little bit more on the Mass Effect side of the house. They say they got some extended gameplay coming out. They're like, we can't let the Expanse get out there with a gameplay trailer at the Xbox Partner Showcase. We got to show our own thing. So they put a little snippet of gameplay out. And this one looks a little more like Mass Effect. You can tell there's not just rifles in space. There's some energy weapons. You've got some special abilities, different types. So this one is probably more on the Mass Effect side. And from an earlier trailer last year, you punch a bear in space that's wearing like space armor. It's like a gorilla, not a gorilla, but like a grizzly bear. I think that's important to know. So Exodus, game where you punch a space bear. The Expanse, you play space miners who are upset. I hope that's clear. I want this show to be useful for you. Okay. Just a couple things left to talk about today. I hope you're ready. It's time for the Marathon Minute. We're going to talk about Marathon. Why? The reviews have started to come in on Marathon. Marathon was like, hey, look, we're going to launch this game, and we would like it if all of the people that do reviews waited until we released the Cryo Archive. The Cryo Archive, if you've been listening to this show, you already know what it is. Last week's show was called the Cryo Archive. I don't know what this week's show is going to be called yet. I do the naming of the show like after we do the show, so we'll find out. Happy to for those of you that listen live and you want to try and name the show, there's a small window where I haven't selected a name yet, and if you ever go like, based on what you talked about, I think the name of the show is this week, send it to me. Matter of fact, at any time you can send me an email. It's podcast@andyb.show. Podcast@andyb.show. And we did get an email this week. We're going to talk about it here in a bit. But back to Marathon. They said, please wait. Please wait until we have Cryo Archive out, because it's this end game map. And you have to be, you have to be a level 25 character. You have to unlock all of these faction quests, and you have to do a bunch of stuff, and you have to ante up so much gear and risk so much gear to even go to the Cryo Archive that it's like it's in-game content. And when you get into the Cryo Archive, there's puzzles to solve, and extracts are difficult, and everything's tougher. And people are comparing it to the raids in Destiny 2. And if you played Destiny or Destiny 2, they had raids. Raids were great. You got together with 6 people, if I recall, and you would go through a series of increasingly not just difficult, challenging content, but content that required you to do puzzle solving. Hey, you stand over there. You flip that switch. Oh, there's a bunch of symbols on the wall. I can't see them. I'm in this other room with the buttons. Why don't you read them off to me? And maybe all 6 people are in different areas. Hey, you can't read the symbols on the wall, and I can't punch in the buttons unless the other 4 people in our party shoot these 2 things at the same time. So it's like raid mechanics. They put raid mechanics into Destiny, and people loved it. And there was always this race every time Bungie would release a new Destiny raid of people who were going to figure it out for the first time. They would get trophies. Bungie would send them jackets with cool logos and stuff on them. It was a big deal. They've always made like a cool event out of a new Destiny raid for like 10 years. But they're hard. And for the average person, they would not allow you for the longest time to use matchmaking, because they go, hey, it's going to be difficult when you get into the raid. You're going to squad wipe. You're going to lose and have to restart sections of the raid over and over. And when you do that, a lot of people will get super, super frustrated. And we don't want to just pair you up on what could be a 90-minute at the fastest. They speedrunners can do it faster. But for most of those raids, they're like 90 minutes to 2 hours when you know what you're doing. And when you don't know what you're doing, it's like 4 hours. And if you have like a Sherpa, somebody that's done it before, that's there to explain it to you, like it goes faster, it works. But like, that's a lot to need, like 6 people for up to 2 to 4 hours hanging out, failing to finish the quest. I mean, that is an incredible amount of commitment. And for me, did I ever beat any raid? Maybe 1, maybe 2. Like I attempted a lot, but like there'd always be, his kids came home, from grandma's, and now he's got to go. Well, where are you going to get a 6th person in the raid? You have to go out to like a Discord channel, find somebody, hope they'll come in. And it's a lot of coordination. So back to Marathon. They released the Cryo Archive. It's raid-like, but you can use crew fill matchmaking to get a crew, which is like, well, good and bad, right? Maybe it's great, maybe it's not. But everybody else is doing it too. And there's a timer. It's 30 minutes or less, and it's ticking down the moment you spawn in. And it's like, okay, as complicated as this might be, I don't have to know 4 hours or 2 hours or 90 minutes worth of stuff to get through this. I only need to figure out 30 minutes worth of content. That's the most it could be. How difficult could it be in 30 minutes? And of course, the answer could be, it's pretty difficult. But it's so much more accessible. The idea that we can get out there as adult gamers, grown-ups, people with different responsibilities, you're like, hey, I know this is in-game content. I expect it to be tough, but I could find 30 minutes. I could do a couple of those a night if I need to. Game Informer gave Marathon a 9.25 out of 10. Here's what they said at the end of their review. Like any good extraction shooter, Marathon is a game about choice and consequences inherent within a run, yet it's more than just that. Bungie's excellent audio design and gunplay, paired with increasingly complicated level design, the Cryo Archive, borrowing from over a decade of expertise designing Destiny raids, coalesce into something special. Marathon has proved Bungie is still at the top of its game. That's what it feels like to me, as somebody who's played Destiny and Bungie games, Halo games before Destiny. Um, it's been a big deal. And the Cryo Archive, which I've not beaten, I've not successfully extracted from. I certainly haven't solved all 7 of the vaults and beat the compiler. There's a lot there. Our good friend, Jeff Gersman, he's my good friend. I'm parasocially a good friend. Jeff has liked a couple of my posts on Threads, but he doesn't, I don't think he listens to the show. He wrote a review, free post over there on Patreon, his Patreon. And he doesn't review games that much anymore. He has for a long time. He gave it a 5 out of 5, which is he's a tough critic. Here's how he ended his review. He says, ultimately, I think that's the thing about Marathon. It all fits, creating a cycle where even failure can be more inspirational than discouraging. And considering most of my time with other extraction shooters ended after a way too discouraging defeat, I'd say that's a huge part of what sets Marathon apart from the pack. They've created and iterated on a story and a universe where you want to know what's next. You want to see the next part of this mystery unfold, whether that's in-game or through some type of ARG. That's the alternate role-playing version of the game. Bungie has set the stage for something truly special, and I hope they take this opportunity to really play around in this space and come up with a wide variety of weird activities to match the game's vibe. It's like, I've read some reviews where they don't talk about the story and how like crazy the game story is. And I'm like, I don't think we're playing the same game. Like, you might be playing it as an extraction shooter, but I don't think we're playing the same game unless you were talking about the lore. Yeah, Isu says, the Codex entries in Marathon have been a highlight for me. I'm going to try and keep up with the lore as the game progresses. Yeah, I think there's like 470 Codex entries. And some of them are just like, hey, you did a thing, here's a reward. But a lot of them have like expanding lore in there. And someone that I interact with on Threads had said that they found some stuff that they unlocked in the lore from the Cryo Archive. You know, they extracted something that like unlocked a lore entry in the Cryo Archive. And I was like, will you please spill the beans? Like, what did it say? This is the only way I want to find out about the lore in the game, by the way. I don't want to go back and read all the old original Marathon like stories and recaps. Like, it's not for me. I want to know what's going on in the game and with people who are playing it right now. Kyle the Dew said, I got all but the last entry of a xenobiopsy report from Outpost. The UESC and the runners are not the only things to fear on Tau Ceti 4. So maybe we got some new enemies coming. Yeah. 88% positive on Steam with 25,000 reviews. Metacritic is sitting at generally favorable. So most of the reviews are like, it's pretty good. Best in class gunplay, good extraction loop. The thing that they need to make sure they do is that they always feel like you're progressing something. I'm decent at shooters. I'm not the best. But if you had like 6 or 8 or 12 or 10 beatdowns in a row, you might bounce off this game. And so Bungie's got to find some way to make sure that people always feel like they're making some progress no matter what. I think the way that Arc Raiders did it that was very interesting is if you took a certain backpack with you or a kit, you would have a safe pocket. And you're like, hey, even if I die, something's coming out with me. I'm going to end up with like that one thing I found and it's coming out, and I might not be the best shooter, but I managed the map well, and maybe I didn't win every fight, but I took this 1 or 2, 3 things. So in a way that's a little less hardcore, right? Like you didn't actually get out, but you still got some loot out. But that might be a way. Like I think there needs to be a little bit of a way to where people can make some certain type of progress even when they fail. And that does happen to the extent like your season level will always go up a little bit, even if you fail, or certain vendors, like you'll take actions in the map that level up the vendors a little bit, even if you don't extract. So there needs to always be that sense of progress, I think, for people. So I think that's where they need to tweak it, make it a little bit better. And I would like to see them do certain runs, maybe limited time runs, where there's just no PvP. And there's a lot of people that listen to this show, that interact with me online, that go, I just need, I I'm a Destiny person, but I've never played. Me and Lord Shax out in Destiny never got along, you know? And I just never did the PvP. And so now I have to do the PvP, and it's just I want to interact with all the content, but I am struggling with PvP. Well, the first thing I would say to you is if you're good at Destiny, um, and all you ever did was PvE, uh, it will be a challenge for you to come do PvP the same way it would always be because you're dealing with other humans. I think it's probably worth giving it a shot at the most competitive price point in gaming of $39.99. But try it. I think I can recommend people trying it, but they need to know what they're getting into. And then Bungie needs to find a way to say, yeah, either there's maybe some modes that they can add in that'll be like PvE only someday. I don't know. Supposedly, insider sources have said that only 1.2 million copies of the game have been sold, which, like, is that good? Is that bad? It's over a million. I, I don't know. You know, I've seen a lot of celebration when games are selling 1 and 2 and 3 million copies. Like, seems okay. I think a lot of people were waiting, not necessarily for the reviews, but just for the idea of like, how's this game really going? Like, how are you really feeling about it? Because what you don't want to do is buy it and then feel bad. Nobody wants to feel bad about it. And it is a game that's about losing a lot and losing gear. And so that could be, you know, kind of tough for people. But I've been enjoying it. I recommend it. I think it is a Andy B recommend. But asterisk, know what you're getting into a little bit. Go watch some of my videos on Marathon. You know, maybe it's one of those games where you can wait for like a free weekend. They'll probably do one of those at some point. Or decide at $40 that there's probably enough vibes in there for you to give it a shot. The thing I would not do, a lot of people that are not into PvP are people that would probably say, well, I don't want a crew fill with people I don't know. I don't want to do matchmaking and get a crew of people I don't know. I think that is the instinct I see from a lot of folks, but the crew fill in this game is good. First of all, you could crew fill with me. So, you know, if you get me talking to you on the mic, I think you're going to enjoy that. But also, most players seem to be like pretty helpful. They want to talk, or if they don't want to talk, occasionally they don't talk. They play the objective and they work with you on what you want to do. So yeah, I think it's good. I don't get if I have to do solo queue, I get the heebie-jeebies. Like it's like a horror game. Like it's too weird. You know what else could give you the heebie-jeebies is finishing games, and specifically finishing RPGs. Kotaku gave us this article this week that says there's a scientific study that concludes finishing RPGs evokes the strongest post-game depression. And they had a great subheadline that I'd like to read to you. The first ever quantitative measure of post-game depression has figured out something that any Kingdom Hearts fan could have already told you. Nice one. Yeah. There's a good article up there by Lewis Parker. Some of you don't like Kotaku, but I don't care. This article was pretty good. But basically it says, like, yeah, if you get an oddly empty, wistful feeling of sadness after finishing a video game, there's a scientific study with like 350 people. They said, yeah, there's some amount of post-game depression. You ever finish like a really good book or good movie? Like it feels the same. It's like all those characters I spent all that time with, like it's over. Even if it was a good ending, like it's done. So do I start again, or do I try and replace it with something else? Or do I go look at the sun and touch grass? You know? Yeah, I think they had 373 participants. Yeah. They called it game and media anhedonia. Anhedonia. Anhedonia is the diminished enjoyment of all forms of media. Media anhedonia. Game-related ruminations, dwelling on the thought of the game being over was the most intense negative feeling, but also just feeling like you might not enjoy anything else. I was like, every time you finished a good movie or a good book, I'll finish the Lord of the Rings rewatch, and I was like, well, I guess I have to wait and do that again next year, you know? Kind of an interesting article, but look, the fact is there's like a nice trick about it. Are you ready? Easy solution. Stop beating games. Just buy another game and don't finish it. That's what we do around here. If finishing games gives you a sense of depression, knock it off. Just play the intro where there's all the possibilities of learning new things and upgrades and finding out the end, and then just walk away before you get there. It works every time. I feel great, by the way. Okay, we're into emails, folks. Again, you can send your emails to podcast@andyb.show. And this one comes to us from a friend of the show. Hey, Andy, what's your most fond gaming memory? Best, Ethan. Thanks, Ethan. This one came in hot. I didn't think about it before the show. I love that for me. So I'm doing this one live. I didn't prep anything. My most fond gaming memory, I think there's two that come to mind right off the bat, and they're both a little bit older. So one of them, do you remember Counter-Strike, like Counter-Strike 1.3? I think it was around like 1999, 2000, 2001, somewhere in there, right around if I have had to say it twice today, right around the turn of the century, dang it. Right around the turn of the century, Counter-Strike. You had to have a pretty beefy PC. And while there was no AI RAM crisis going on around then, it was like, well, I didn't have a lot of money. But for $20 US, you could walk on down to your local LAN. That is a local area network in a place that never got really big in America. In America, we didn't have like LAN cafes. It's like a big cultural thing like they had over in Japan or in Taiwan or a lot of these other places where they had like super fast internet, but nobody had computers. And so they would go to the internet cafe to do their email. They'd go out, browse the web. But for us, we didn't really have that. Most people around here were like, yeah, I'll order a gateway computer. They'll ship it to my door. And so people would quickly get computers in America, at least it seemed like to me, but not ones that would play video games. And specifically, if you had ones that played video games, they couldn't play them online because broadband internet across this wide open space of the United States of America didn't exist. Like it was dial-up. So you would go to a business where they would have a T1 line. And a T1 line, especially if you were hosting your own video game server when it was peer-to-peer, or you could host a game server and everybody would connect to it, you would end up with like a 1 for a ping for Counter-Strike or for, if you're playing Warcraft 3 back in the day or something like that. And for $20, you could basically go, hey, I'm here. That's my chair. That's the PC I'm on. You could bring your own mouse and keyboard or they had them provided for you. And you could be there all day. And I do mean all day. They would open up at 9 and they would close at like 9 or midnight sometimes if it was a weekend. And so you'd spend $20 and me and 1 and 2 and 3 different of the buddies would go out. We'd drop $80 between the 4 of us and we'd go get our chairs at the LAN place and we'd play Counter-Strike and Warcraft and whatever else they had over there all day long on a Saturday. And you'd waste the whole day and you'd walk outside and you'd go get some Chinese food next door. And it was like in a little strip mall. And then you'd go back to the LAN place and that was it. Like that was pretty good. Like that was like some video games, man. Like I don't remember that place smelling. But if you were in there for 12 hours in a small internet cafe, like it had to have not been great, but, it was fun. Yeah. And I think the second one that comes to mind, was just a few years earlier on the Nintendo 64. And I did a whole, exclusive podcast episode on the Patreon about the Nintendo 64 and how I ended up with one. You can go to andyb.show and listen to that one if you'd like. It's only there, so you can't get it anywhere else. I told that story. But the Nintendo 64 I ended up with came with The Legend of Zelda, The Ocarina of Time, which is heralded as one of the best video games to date. I've tried to go back and play it recently. It's a little bit hard to go back. I saw a rumor today that they might release a 40th anniversary edition of it, like a remake for Zelda's 40th anniversary. We'll see. But I remember playing that game and I would play it in the living room and my mom would be around and I would get stuck. And this was really like, it wasn't before the internet, but there weren't like a lot of easy guides out there. And I didn't have the Prima games guide for it. And I would go, yeah, I don't really know where to go. And my mom, who does listen to the show sometimes, I don't know if she listens to every episode, but she's listened to this show a fair bit in the past. And she would just sit there and go like, well, what about that? Well, what can you throw the Deku shield at that? Can you swing at that? What about this? And she would ask like 4,000 questions, just a million, because I was stuck. And she's like, well, I got time. And she would just sit in the chair, like in the easy rocker. And I'm sitting there on the floor, like playing with it. You know, it's like 1996 or whatever. And what about that? Can you do that? Can you go there? Can you do this? And I go, no, Mom, I can't do that. And it was like what's a carrying inefficient algorithm? If you think about like the way that when you search for something on a computer, you don't have to, the algorithms are really fast, right? And it doesn't go like, hey, if I'm searching for like something with the letter T in it, it doesn't even start there. Like it starts at the end, and it subdivides the list in such a way that like it gets you the answer super, super fast. And if everything is known and these algorithms are really efficient at sorting huge unstructured data, well, when you start writing algorithms, if you're like a computer science person, you probably start with like really inefficient ones, right? Unless someone teaches you better. And you can have inefficient algorithms. And my favorite one is it's from The Office, where they forget the password to the server at the office. And Dwight, the character on the show, goes, try the password 0000001. And then he's like, okay, that's not it. He's like, all right, try 0000002. And Dwight and Jim like fight about it. And it's like, okay, well, that's the most inefficient way to try and brute force a password. And it was an incredibly inefficient but caring way to try and help me solve The Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time, because my mom didn't play very many video games. She doesn't know. And she was just like, what about that? What about that? If she'd see something, she'd ask. And I'd go, no. But eventually I'd be stuck, and she'd be like, well, what about this thing? And that would be the thing. That would be the one that would like solve the stupid water temple or whatever. That'd be like the path I hadn't gone down, the enemy I hadn't tried to kill, the switch I hadn't flipped, whatever I hadn't used. And we solved the whole game that way. And it was like the power of pleasant persistence from my mom. And also the power of like me being patient too. Cause I was like, it was like, okay, Mom, I could have been like real friend. Mom, you don't know what you're talking. Like, that's not how video games. But she was like, no, it's like what, yeah. Mom, the original rubber duck. It's exactly right. It's like, if you're a programmer, they call it rubber ducking, right? Like just bouncing the ideas off the rubber duck. And yeah, my mom was the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time rubber duck for me. So I think those are the two things I probably remember the most, is like that instantly came up. Like there's other ones that are really great, but those are two huge gaming memories. So if you've got a gaming memory out there and you're somebody that's in the sound of my voice, send it to me. podcast@andyb.show. I would love to read your favorite gaming memories. You could send them to me. I hope I'll be able to come back next week and say, oh, my new favorite gaming memory, the one that you've never heard of before, the one that would shock you, is that I beat the Cryo Archive. And I came out with all the purple and gold loot that you never would have heard of before. Unlocking 47 codex entries in Marathon. Maybe that's the show next week. But that's the show for this week. This is the Andy B Show. It's a video game podcast for adult gamers, for grown-ups. It's for me, it's for you. I hope it's been a wonderful part of your day listening to it whenever you hear the show. Thank you for being a listener, sharing it with your video game friends. Are you going to the Cryo Archive this week? Are you going to try Marathon for the first time? Are you going to buy a PlayStation before it goes up to $7,000? It's a lot of things to consider. I hope you've had a good time listening to the show today. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being a part of it. We're going to see you next week. Have a great week.